All right, our last video for chapter 3, okay? So we talked about the cell membrane and the functions and why it's so important, and it feels like we talked a lot about the cell membrane, right? Lastly, we're going to talk about the inside, right? All the machinery. And actually, we're not talking about all the machinery. We're talking about kind of the big guys. And remember, we are talking about eukaryotic cells. So true, karyote, kernel, the fact that these have a nucleus. Okay. So for simplicity, and I think that would be really helpful, think of the organelles. Again, organelle means tiny organ. Think of the organelles like workers inside the factory, okay? So we're going to compare the cell to a factory. And let's pretend the factory we're comparing it to is a shoe factory, okay? So that's what we're going to do. All right. So imagine a factory. So the factory, there's probably gates around the factory that are going to control, what can come in and what can come out. Let's pretend it's like a Nike factory or a Reebok factory. You think about that. Are all Nike shoes the same? No, there are different types. Just like Reebok, are they all the same? No, there are different types. Same thing here. The cell can make stuff and it can make different types of stuff. It can package them just like a shoe is packaged. It can ship them out, right? And the cell can do that too, like with proteins. It can make proteins, it can package proteins, it can export, right? It can have like a UPS or USPS, right? So it has that where things can go out of the cell and things can come into the cell, like packages can come in, packages can go out. And just like a factory would have this kind of perimeter fence, right, to hold stuff in and allow things in and allow things out, that would be the cell membrane. All right, so now we're going to talk about, the workers in the factory, right? Imagine, okay, so the first organelle we're going to talk about is the nucleus. Again, we're talking about eukaryotic cells. So the nucleus is like the boss of the cell, okay? Think of the manager's office, okay? That is the nucleus, okay? And if you look at the nucleus, most cells, the nucleus is right smack in the middle. It's this blue thing, okay? And it manages the activities of the cell, okay? All right, so if we look, right, so I'm going to talk about every organelle and their functions. And yes, you do need to know them, yeah? Okay. So the nucleus is the cell's genetic control center. Look at these two people. What do you notice? They are identical, yes? So every cell in their body has a nucleus, okay? And the nucleus contains the code for making this person, the code for making this person. So think of the manager inside the cell, and it has all the instructions for making the different types of shoes. In this case, this person's cell has its DNA that has all the information in making her. This person, the same thing. And they're identical twins. So guess what? They have the same information, and that's why they're identical. Now, when you look at identical twins, they're not identical, right? Because factors in the environment can affect how the cells work. Interesting. Okay, so the nucleus, the largest and most prominent organelle is in most eukaryotic cells. Most, of course, there's always exceptions, okay, but we're not going to worry about those right now. The nucleus has two primary functions: genetic control center, storehouse for hereditary information. So think about if we're looking at a cell and comparing it to a factory. The factory has the manager's, office where it has all the information, all the blueprints for making the different shoes. The nucleus is the boss of the cell. It has the DNA, which is all the information for making the cells and making the organism, okay? So here is the cell. Here's the nucleus. And inside these are the nuclear pores. They can allow things into and out of the nucleus. But the nucleus contains the DNA. It says chromatin, chromosomes, thin fibers of DNA, which carry all the hereditary information. So inside the nucleus. Okay. Don't have to worry about that. Okay. Cytoplasm, cytoskeleton. Cytoplasm is the inside environment of the cell. Cytoskeleton, just like it says skeleton. Well, here's the cell, here's the membrane. What's going to keep the cell from, there are these fibers inside that keep it holding its structure. Okay, so if you look, you can see these they look like little green lines. That's the cytoskeleton. If we look here, here's the cell membrane. Here's the nucleus. And see all these lines? That's the cytoskeleton. Or here's another cell nucleus and these there's the nucleus, excuse me. And then these lines. So those are the cytoskeleton. And they're made out of protein filaments that kind of help the cell from resisting pressure, holding it in place. And what's super cool is the organelles can move around. The cytoskeleton is almost like little train tracks that allows things to move around. Okay. Some cells have little extensions off their cell membranes called cilia that helps move things on the outside of the cell. In humans, the only cells that have this long whip-like structure are sperm cells. So these little whip-like structures, they are going to help the cell move around. Okay. All right, next, here's the cell again. Here's the nucleus. Now these guys are called the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. So it says acts as all-purpose energy converters, harvest energy to be used in cellular functions. So just like a shoe factory would need energy and needs power, the cell for doing its job, right, needs power, and the mitochondria are the powerhouse for the cell. All right. So here's our cell, here's the nucleus, here's the mitochondria. Now these guys, okay, they're called the lysosomes. Think of Lysol. To lyse is to break something apart. So they're the lysosomes. They're like the janitors, right? They're the janitorial crew, the recycling crew. It says lysosomes are the cell's garbage disposals. So again, just like a factory would need janitors, right? These lysosomes are the janitors, right? They clean stuff up, okay? So act as floating garbage disposals, digesting, recycling cellular waste. Okay. Next, there's the endoplasmic reticulum. There's what's called the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and the Golgi body. So we're going to talk about their jobs, their functions. The rough endoplasmic reticulum, okay? Why did I pick shoes, okay? Here it is. It's called rough. The reason it's called rough is because on the microscope, you see these little dots, okay? So, and the dots are the ribosomes. So what's the function? Okay. The shoe factory makes shoes, right? So it takes, you have to put materials together to make the shoe, okay? Same thing here. The cell can make proteins. The rough endoplasmic reticulum it's like the conveyor belt. It's like the assembly line making proteins. And if you remember, proteins are made out of amino acids. We put the amino acids together to build the protein, and that's happening with the rough endoplasmic reticulum. It says modifies proteins that will be shipped to other locations. Okay. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. I'm going to skip that one for just a second. Okay. Going to the Golgi apparatus, it says processes products for delivery. So let's say, okay, so here we go. Here's the cell. Here's the nucleus. Here are the mitochondria. Here are the lysosomes. Here's the rough endoplasmic reticulum, right? So it's making proteins. Well, what's going to happen to the proteins? They need to be modified, and then they're going to be shipped off to be used for other things. So the Golgi apparatus when you look at it, there's like little vesicles, the little transport vesicles are moving out. So it's almost like the UPS, okay, or the shipping factory. So the cells or are going to make proteins, and then they got to get packaged, and then they're going to be shipped off, okay? So just like the shoes are being made, they're going to be packaged, and then maybe, you know, you can have trucks, etc., UPS moving and shipping the stuff out. Oh my gosh, we can think of Amazon. I can't believe I just said Amazon, right? With the boxes and the shipping, that's what the Golgi apparatus does. Now I'm going to go back to the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum, there isn't kind of something analogous with a factory, but here you see membranes, but there's no dots on them and there's no packages coming off of them. That's a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So it synthesizes lipids such as fatty acids, phospholipids, steroids. Oh, that sounds familiar, okay? Detoxifies molecules such as alcohol, drugs, metabolic waste. So this is really important for our body. So if you drink alcohol, alcohol is a toxin, okay? And it affects our nervous system. It affects our brain. And how does the body get rid of it, okay? The liver cells have a lot of this, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, okay? And it helps break down those toxins, okay? So Golgi packages stuff off. So through exocytosis, things can move out, right? Oh, this is a beautiful picture. So it shows, right? So proteins are being made, they get packaged, and then exocytosis can move out. All right, so basically those are the organelles we're going to focus on, okay? And then lastly, right now, the cells we're looking at were animal cells. And so plant cells have those organelles too, and they function the same way. Now, how are plant cells different than animal cells? And this is something I already talked about, but we'll talk about it again. Plant cells, what is it about plant cells that are different? Okay, so plant cells have cell walls, right? And there's cellulose that provides strength to the cells, provides the cell with structural strength, gives the cell increased water resistance, provides some protection from insects and other animals. So there's going to be a question on the test, guaranteed. You know, how are plant cells different than animal? One, they have a cell wall, okay? That's different, made out of that cellulose. Two, plant cells have large vacuoles. Those large vacuoles are like storage sacks. So plants make sugars and they have to store them, right? So stores nutrients, okay? And lastly, plant cells have chloroplasts. That's what makes leaves green. And you say, okay, what's the function of chloroplasts? I already told you guys, so let's think about it, right? Photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis to synthesize, to make. So plant cells are so amazing, and plants are not the only ones, by the way, that can undergo photosynthesis. Bacteria can do too, okay? But right now we're focusing on plants, okay? So they have these chloroplasts where they can grab the sun's energy and make sugars, and then they store it. Let's think about this. Think of fruit. Is fruit sweet? Yes. And fruit is a product of what? Plants. So plants can grab the sun's energy, make sugar, and then they store it, right? They store it for themselves so they could use the sugar for energy. Remember carbohydrates, energy? Yes, plants do this. Do plants grow? Yes, they do. Do plants reproduce? Yes, they do. They do all of those things too. Wow. All right. So finally, this is the last slide. And again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Look at this. This will be very helpful for you. It shows the organelles. Are they in animals or are they in plants? Yes. And it shows the functions. So it's really neat to have a picture that summarizes everything, and it does, right? So these are all the organelles that we talked about. Cytoskeleton is not an organelle, but these are organelles over here. And then it shows the differences between plant cells and animal cells. By the way, so animal cells do not have a cell wall. Animal cells do not have chloroplast, but animal cells can have vacuoles. It says sometimes, okay? Think of fat. Fat cells have large vacuoles. For what? To store fat. All right, we are done with chapter 3. See you later.